First off, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. This one is going to be a little different. So instead of a traditional webinar, we wanted to do something more like real, more conversational, something that actually reflects how things work in the real world. And because the topic we're diving into today, social media in 2026, it's not something you can neatly package into slides. Uh, it's evolving fast. It's still messy. Algorithms are unpredictable. AI is changing content. And honestly, a lot of us are, I feel like, still trying to figure out what actually works now. And from our side
Yeah.
at CanSpace, for those who may not know us, we're a Canadian domain register and web hosting provider. We see this every day. Like we work with thousands of businesses across Canada, and one of the most common challenges right now is exactly this: like, how do you actually get attention and turn it into something that grows your business? So this felt like the right conversation to have. But instead of pretending we have all the answers, we brought in people who are actually living this every day. Uh, People who've built real audiences, real businesses, and have a very practical view of what works and what doesn't. And today's conversation is really about two things: how businesses can work with creators in a smart way, and how you can build and monetize your own audience in a way that lasts. And we've got an incredible panel for that. First, we have Vicky Boudreau, founder and CEO of heylist.com. Vicky comes from the world of PR, where she built one of the most influential agencies in Canada, and then made the jump into the creator economy. And with Heylist, she's built a fast-growing platform that connects brands with creators with a focus on authenticity and working with creators who may not have massive audiences but have real influence. And then we have Jessica Metni. Jess is a great example, actually, of what it looks like to build something from the ground up in this space. She started as a creator, built an audience through storytelling and consistency, and turned that into a real business, hermust.com. And what's interesting is it wasn't advertising or marketing budgets driving growth. It was her audience and the community she built around it. So today we really have kind of like both sides of the equation here. We have the platform side and the creator turned business owner side, and which is exactly what makes this conversation interesting. Now I'll guide things, ask questions, dig into specifics, but we also want this to be useful for you. So uh, we'll have an ongoing Q&A. If something comes to mind as we're talking, write it down, drop it in the chat, or raise your hand,
Mhm.
ask it live, and we'll try to get through like as many questions as we can. All right, so with that, let's get into it. So let's start at the very beginning. Uh, Jessica, I want to start with you. Like, what did the very beginning actually look like for you, like before there was a business?
So before there was the business, I was starting like everyone on Instagram, which was I was actually late starting on the platform. That was 9 years ago. A lot of people had blogs already, and I had no blog, but I was interested in maybe putting myself out there. It was a sort of portfolio for me to show what I could do visually. I had a career prior to that in the fashion world, and also as a photographer, I knew I could bring in my aesthetic input. So that's what I did and started sharing my visual snaps, which was completely different back in the time. It was more of a flat lay culture where we would take photos of our coffees on the table. It was not the same reality and not the same business as it has grown into. But I started and I shared what I loved, and it was very organic and very real. And so from there, it started gradually picking up. A lot of people were kind of looking at me, probably the ones closer to me even more, like, why are you doing this? Why are you taking photos of yourself? And there's always a little judgment before things work out. And it's important to just do it if you want to do it. And so I did, and it grew very like organically and truthfully, and I've built this little connection. And if you want to like go into how did it turn into the company, it didn't right away turn into a company. It first started as more of an influencer, if you will, and I would get companies send me things, and then I would talk about it, and it was free at the time. And so that was gradual. And then at one point, I realized, well, maybe I do have a traction. Maybe I do have a selling traction. Maybe if people keep asking me where I get this and where I get that, I could maybe turn this to profit to myself. At the time, I was a photographer. That's what I was doing on the side. That was my career. And I was just like, okay, well, why don't I shoot my own product? So be also the creator of the product and try and see if I have any kind of traction that way. And was very much friends with a company in Australia that had tanning products, self tanners. And those self tanners were not here. And I was sharing them a lot and I was talking about them a lot. And I said, why don't you send me a box of those bronzers and I'll try to see if people want to buy them here and if I can get them out there. And that was without risking investing and creating a product myself. I said, trust me in that and I'll try and I'll see if I have attraction. And that's what I did. And I grew the product very well, so much that it got known here and it worked really well. And in North America started to be out there. And so they flew me in Australia and they were like, come and like, we're so happy what you did. And we built a friendship from there. And then they kind of gave me, confidence in having that side of like the salesperson in me, or that entrepreneur, that young entrepreneur that thought, okay, maybe I could do this. And from there I started my products and I brought my first sample swimsuits in Australia as well on that trip and I shot them and it was kind of all started like that really. Yeah.
So
So
perfect, as you actually addressed my follow-up question about like,
yeah.
at which point you realize that this could actually turn something.
Yeah, that
Vicky,
was it.
yeah, Vicky, let me bring you in here as well. So from your side, like what made you realize there was a real gap between brands and creators? And and if a small business today, like if I'm a small business today, like what's the right way to even start thinking about working with creators?
I feel there's a parallel to make with when social was becoming a thing. Every brand, every company knew they needed to be on social. They would open an Instagram or Facebook page at the time and just leave it die because they knew they had to do it, but they had no clue how to do it. So I feel we're
Mhm.
at the tipping point where some brands are savvy. They have influencer marketing people in-house that know how to do these things, but a lot of smaller companies, they don't know how to do it, and they get burned on one collaboration that they invest a lot in and that does not give them the actual ROI. So there's plenty of way to start smaller. I think one of the things that is sometimes overlooked is to look at your own social, see who's super active, who are your existing clients that know about you, that are excited about your brand, that are engaging on your social, and why don't you treat them as VIPs, sending them products early on, having them part of some test or benchmark on what you're going to build next, and activate these people, and also some other low-hanging fruits. We see a lot of founder influencer, what I call like the founder of the company, just like Jess, putting themselves out there.
Mm.
That's one way also to start into the influence without doing campaigns at scale, and employees too. So we were talking prior to going live about retail, but a lot of the brands are doing it well right now, activating employees on the floor while between two clients, they don't have much to do once everything's folded, right? And they can create content out of the store and create kind of even of a relationship with people that will come in store and they feel like they know them. So I feel like it doesn't need to be that now we're running pilots with big beauty brands where we activate 1,000 creator at once, but you don't need to start there. You can start small with smaller creator. But if you want to see some traction, I would always recommend to at least activate 10, 15 people at the time,
Mhm.
just to make sure that there's kind of a small momentum happening. But there's so many things that can be done at a smaller scale, and it's always a test and learn. You can try some things and it doesn't turn out the way you thought, and then something else could like make the business grow and in a very surprise way.
Also, I'd like to add on what Vicky's saying about like the smaller communities. It's also not always about the big numbers and the big stats and all of those big things that appear very impressive. Sometimes it's important to um, to see the truth in organic communities that didn't necessarily rush the stats or invest in some techniques that can grow and scale things and make it look very big. I've myself invested in influencers back then as a company owner, thinking if I send a swimsuit or I pay a certain amount and I'll see the RIO on this investment with that big influencer with that has like multiple thousands of hundred followers that actually do not necessarily convert in sales. So that's very important not to put yourself down because you're a smaller um, grower or a smaller influencer or a smaller amount of views, or these things don't necessarily and always convert in sales. So it is big and impressive, but sometimes for actual sales and like the relationship between the buyer or the conversion rate of for a company at least, that's more important. And that's what people and companies are realizing now, that it's not often as authentic as we think to be this impressive with the numbers, and that the smaller real communities are actually more converting.
That's a very good point that you're bringing up, because we're definitely, this is one of the biggest questions I find for especially smaller, medium-sized businesses that are, how do I even like, what metrics do I look at when I
Mhm.
try to approach creators? And this is something that we're definitely going to touch on like later for sure. So I want to bring this down to something like really practical, like, because a lot of people here are either starting from scratch or trying to grow something that just isn't moving, and
Mhm.
so Jess, you can probably start here. Like, if someone here is starting from zero today, like, what would
Yeah.
you actually do in your first 30 days?
So as an influencer that wants to grow as an influencer or as a brand. So I find there's two different ways to see it. So what would be your first
I'd
question?
say
Would it be more as an
I'd say
influencer?
I'd say if you can address very quickly both sides, because you both have the personal kind of channel, but you also grew one for your business as well. So it could
Right.
be interesting to hear how you approach both. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with as an influencer. I think the way I started 9 years ago is completely different to what Instagram is now. So I don't know if right now, if today I started, if I'd have the same opportunities, because it is a very big pool with a lot of players, but there's always a way to succeed. And like I said, it's not necessarily like having big numbers that's going to make it or break it. It's just about, I think, being consistent and also knowing the message that you want to send to your viewer. So
Mhm.
before we would do more of an aesthetically beautiful gallery, and that was kind of like the influencing world. Now it's completely different. And now it's about what are you saying, what's your message, and what are you trying to share. And even myself as an influencer got lost in that because it was more of an aesthetic, polished way of creating my content, which as an editorial photographer, I was very comfortable with that. And with the years, it started being more like uh, kind of like a quick throw of content, just post as much as you can and post and be out there. And I completely got lost in that. And I felt the rush of the creation, like getting me a little bit off of my ex because I was more of a controlled and I wanted to control my content and I needed to have a message. I didn't want to just post to post. I wanted to be true to myself and know why am I posting? Like, what do I actually have to say? And so I had to kind of slow down and ask myself these questions instead of just wanting to follow the trend and run after the stats. That was really not me. Some people are comfortable with that, but I realized down the line that if I was able to build a company and make it uh, a working company and sell and have attraction, it's because I respected that side and I didn't cheat and I didn't run to the top. I didn't do it at any cost. I actually worked slower but more authentically. And at the end of the day, if I was starting over today, I think I would do the same thing all over again, be more, be like very clear
Slow
with my
paced,
message,
but yeah.
having a slower pace but stronger foundations. Yeah.
Is that the same? Is that the same story for if you were starting a channel for a business today?
So my business was very personal to me. So I feel like I had a different story than just starting a business like and being kind of separated from the business. Like if I started a brand and with a group of people and the brand was its own thing and I wasn't necessarily the face of the company, it would be completely different. But I think regardless of all that, knowing what you want to say, having a clear message is what I learned through the years that is important. Like, what is your message? Like, what are you trying to say with your brand or your product? And this is something I'm still learning today, by the way. Like, I'm still working on that. I'm still adjusting and I'm still learning and observing what the Instagram world or what the social world, because it's TikTok, it's Pinterest, a lot of different platforms. What's it asking and what it needs without ever sacrificing my values though. I think sometimes following the trends or what works is not really for me. It can be working for others, but I'm never gonna like start dancing to get a sale or attraction. I'm just respecting what I want for my company to be, and also respecting that the people who are interested in my product are also similar in their values. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's more like about building trust versus just getting views for you. So,
It's important for me to build something strong and that has depth
mhm.
rather than
So
something quick, big, and all about the fluff. I think it's important to have intention. Yeah.
yeah. And a quick follow up because I think a lot of people face the same reality. If
Yeah.
someone is posting consistently but not growing, like what are they likely doing wrong?
I think it's a super interesting question because it's very hard to succeed in this world. It's something everyone is trying to be good at. It's not necessarily that everyone is gonna be good at it. It's a combination of having a good intuition into what you think is going to be a good subject or a good fit, but also the way you present it, the way you put it in market, the visual aspects, the good marketing. It's all important. But if people are consistent in general, I think it's a very good first step to success is something I lacked personally because I had also I had different things I was doing. I wasn't all in one, but I think being very consistent, this is something I see from people succeeding around me. Um, People that are successful are people that are have one goal and they stick to it and they work hard at it and they're not giving up. And that's something I am applying to myself every day, even though it's not my nature to be that consistent. I'm not perfect, but trying to be as consistent as I can, I know is going to bring me higher. And if it's not working, what whistle being so consistent, I think there's something about maybe the message. Maybe the message is not clear. Maybe the visual is not on point. So, or the way they tell the message is not to the right person. So, Yeah, I would say that. But I think
Mhm.
consistency is a key to success. Yeah.
Vicky, I'm curious from your perspective, do you see patterns in the creators that actually break through?
I think that's something that we sometimes overlook is to go back to your content that performed well and ask yourself, is there a pattern? I do that personally on LinkedIn. I have like 5 pillars with different types of topics. I know when I'm talking pure thought leadership about influencer marketing and it's very informative, I I need to put myself out there as an expert. So I'm not gonna let that go, but it's not where I get the most engagement. Whereas when I bring people into my founder's journey and I bring them in the high and the lows, and there's a picture of myself, like there's always a lot of engagement. People are like excited, but it cannot be just that neither. So what I would do is like for 6 weeks, I would go back to all the metrics that my different posts gets and then recalibrate the type of content I'm producing based on what my audience is seeking for.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would put like a lot of time in like a caption and like bring people into something that I've lived and I'm super excited and nobody cares. These are the worst.
That's true. Sometimes you put so much time into creating something you think is great, but it's not what necessarily the audience wants, and then you get like crickets.
Yeah, and
That's
you
true.
need to be mindful also about the time of posting during the day, which day to post. And these algorithms are changing every single weeks, almost. But it's information that you can find online quite easily. And
Yeah.
also look at collaboration with other creators that you can bring into your content. Or sometimes it's kind of weird, but whenever I'm at a business event or I bump into business friends, like I'll take selfies and pictures because I know I'm going to write about their company in a month and a half, even if it's not for now. So, or I'll look at my agenda and look at all my meetings and see, am I doing anything exciting this week that could be content worthy? So these are little tips and tricks more for founder influencer content, but you need to test, do things, but also look at the results uh, and craft from there. Yeah.
And I assume you see certain stats in terms of platforms in Canada. Um, where is attention actually going right now? Like, what platforms are really working in Canada?
I think it really depends on your business and the type of audience you're trying to reach. If it's like younger generation or if it's like B2B, you should go on LinkedIn. Facebook is kind of dying across the board. Instagram is still very aspirational. It's still super interesting in terms of brand awareness. And in other spaces, there's also all these gamings platform and so on. But something that is trending and that I see from my Californian friends that are always a bit in front of the parade is everything with Substack. Substack is becoming a very great engine for GEO. So when you search in ChatGPT or Claude, Substack is feeding those beasts. But what's unclear right now is if a brand is talking directly on Substack, people are less interested. So it still needs to be either an employee, some thought leader, and so on. But we haven't have cracked it fully yet. But I feel like the long form content is coming back in a world where everything is so quick and so fast. People, when they're interested about one topic, are going back to read a full blog article or an article on Substack. That's something that I see coming back, and also just in terms of a metric that we see because the generations are changing. We're looking at the saves. So younger generation, they're not gonna interact. Oh my god, emojis! They're just gonna save the post and come back to it for later. But for us and the
Mhm.
brands that we work with, it's very valuable to see that this content was worth someone saving it for later. So it's
Mhm.
always changing, evolving, but it's super interesting.
Interesting about the Substack. Even though Substack is not a traditional social like media platform. I wouldn't call it so, but it's interesting that it's performing so well.
I would add
Okay.
maybe
Mhm.
Pinterest is actually a
Yeah.
very strong market for buying power. So influencers are could be very present on that too, and growing a company and a build like purchase for your company is very strong. So Pinterest is also one of them that's actually keeps growing and that's very, very strong. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
If
At
you,
one point,
but
it was like going slower, and then it's picking up
Yeah.
back totally,
Yeah.
if you're
especially
a
for
company,
shopping.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if you're a company, uh,
Yeah.
does it make sense for you to be present also on Pinterest? Like, what would
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
how
It
would
is
you sell?
turning
Because
into
that's
that.
yeah.
Just like you can now shop on Instagram. Pinterest is also turned to that and is becoming, I'm not an expert on Pinterest at all,
Mhm.
but it is a very strong buying place
Yeah.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like you're going through those beautiful mood boards.
Yeah.
Let's say I want a Parisian aesthetic beige trench coat, and then I look at all those pictures, and they keep on showing me more. And once in a
Yeah.
while, these are the ones that I can just go buy, or I'm going to that an article, and then from the article I can buy directly. And I think
Yeah.
it's very curated. I
Yeah.
love Pinterest for that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very nice also for more of the visual people and maybe subtract for more of the reading and depth and people that
Hmm.
want to take that time to read. But I feel like the fast consumption, it's so nice to know that we're going back to taking time to have more depth and read and get into the process and what's going on behind rather than just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm also I'm maybe part of the older generations, but the young ones I think are interested in finding a little bit more depth and like slowing down the process. It just been the last decade has been like so fast and
Yeah.
everyone is a little rushed by it and everyone is kind of like, oh my God, like can we take time a little bit and just really like look at what we do and take time to produce and you know put more heart into it. That's what I think is a good thing. Yeah.
I do have a question from Kevin. He's asking, and either one of you can like jump in on the question or provide your take. The question is, what about a nonprofit association that is trying to to bring traffic to their website, and I assume like push memberships in a way.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the topic of the association. So I would try to find do we do we already have ambassadors that are supporting the cause? Do we know that these influencers are supporting these kind of topics and so on? So there's a lot of influencer marketing plays that could be done at a smaller or bigger scale for nonprofit. We've seen that in the past, and we ran campaign this year. Some agency clients they ran campaign for Moisson Montréal on the platform, and some creators they went and did some charity work during the holidays, and they like the ripple effect of that was amazing. So activating creators that are touched by the nonprofit is a good thing. But if you want to have people going on the website and sign up for memberships, you need to be super clear in the brief, and that's something I think is key when you're collaborating with influencers or creator, is not expecting that they'll put your website on the caption or that they'll talk about the membership. Or so you need to be clear on the messaging you're expecting from the collaboration, and not just think that your exact goals will be met because somebody's talking about you somewhere. It needs to be very clear.
Yeah. And also, I think the person needs to talk about it multiple times to build trust about that. Because if it's, more of a movement and a membership, it's something that people are going to have to be kind of more invested in rather than just, oh, I'll like this product. Maybe I'll buy it kind of like, oh, it's a nice product. Now it's more something, it's more something kind of like, it's a movement and people need to be more personally, um, invested in this. So I think that ambassador should be talking about it on a regular basis for the conversion to. That's what I would do.
Great. Now let's flip the perspective for a second. We've talked about building attention. Now let's talk about borrowing it. I assume not everyone wants to build an audience from like scratch or wait that long, right? So, Vicky, like if I'm a business with a limited budget, how should I approach working with creators?
Yeah, as I mentioned prior, you can start with your employees, clients, founder, but also there's always ways to do collaborations with other brands that have access to those pool of audience you're looking to. If they're, let's say, not direct competitor, they're in another space, but they're talking to the same target. You could do a small influencer marketing campaign combining the two of your brands and sharing costs and creating more of a kind of a lifestyle play with that. And also, there's always like the typical contesting. It can seem tacky, but if the price is super interesting and you're promoting an experience like meet our designer or something more elevated, then people can be engaged and then like share with their own audience that this contest is happening, and or just like some typical like tag your friends and it still works. It's not it could be made in a more elevated way, but we were looking for 250 creators in the beauty space for one specific campaign, and we ended up adding like 800 people under the post tagging their friends and so on. So sometimes, and that the algorithm likes that. So trying to do some low-hanging fruit, small play that can get our
Mhm.
attention is something feasible.
That's amazing. But what's the biggest mistake I would say that companies make when choosing like who to work with?
I think Jessica mentioned it, but it's not really about the numbers anymore. It's more
Mhm.
about the niche. Is there an alignment? Now with tools like ours, you're able to see where the creator is located, but where their audience is located as well. If Jessica's swimsuits are not available yet in France, and the creator is our audience is solely in France, there's no point for her at this stage to be collaborating with her. So being mindful of the geography, the niche, and the intent. Um, we like to say we have like 300 filters. We know if people are vegan, they have kids, cottage, they're lactose intolerant. We were looking the other day for 10 TikTokers with dandruffs, and we had like 300 of them. So sometimes you need to find the right partners that are does not have like the biggest audience, but that are totally aligned with your product and that are talking about it genuinely because they have a condition and it really helps them. They're becoming ambassadors for the right reasons. And I think when brands are seeking for big numbers and just like promotional posts and crossing fingers that something will happen, I think that worked in the past, but I think this is over. Yeah.
You've seen so many campaigns at this point, like and you've seen probably collaborations that work super well and some potentially fail. Like, mm, can you kind of draw like a little, not like a summary, but can you identify like what actually makes some collaboration like work well and some fail?
Yeah, I think like the lack of authenticity is super bad for a brand, um and the repetition also needs to be there. I'd rather see a collab that is coming every a few times than a one-off in terms of impact and building trust with the audience of the creator. That's one thing, and also when we can sense when someone has been paid and they don't enjoy the product or they don't care about that insurance company or whatnot. Uh, So it needs to be genuine. And sometimes it can take a little more time to find the right creators that are going through, let's say, a situation of I'm really moving, I'm really renovating, I'm really getting like married or whatever, and tie these. I feel when brands are tightening their collabs with lifetime moments is where the brand is coming through the creator story. That's one thing I love to see because it's it's more genuine, and we're also happy that this person is pregnant or getting married or just divorced or whatever they're going through. So I feel like it's a great brand integration when it's more personal to what the creator is living at that moment.
Okay, so
And
also, sorry, a quick one. Like,
yeah.
then what makes like a pitch stand out? Like when reaching out to creators, is it like when it's this personal? When you actually try take the time to understand who the creator is, and you kind of try to play toward their,
Yeah,
interest?
yes, it is. But I'd like to hear Jessica on this one because she's been pitched by Brent.
I have a, yeah.
And
Also, I
I was
definitely
gonna
want to bring
say,
Jessica in up on this too, because I have some questions for her on this subject, because it's really interesting to me. Like, what makes someone say yes or no to a brand? Like,
well,
and
Vicky was saying things that were really interesting, and I just wanted to add to what she was saying that brands often, the ones that will kind of work more efficiently are perhaps I know that some of the big companies have things to respect, and it can be very rigid. So the brief could be very rigid, but sometimes trusting your influencer when you pick her, obviously, or him or her, doing the content and respecting their own feed and their own way of doing it is very important, because when you took the natural out of the creator and tell him do this, do that, say this, say that, it becomes very stiff and the content is not fun for the influencer sharing the
Mhm.
content, and also for the viewer that feels like it's paid, it's controlled, it's so they drop listening, they don't even look at it. And it is also something very normal. The stats or the views or the engagement is never going to be as authentic and as true on a paid ad and on something that the person knows is being promoted. Rather, it's pretty normal that it's not going to be as engaging as someone talking about something very personal that is the person is not promoting anything. So that's also something brands know, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. It's normal that it's not going to get the same engagement, but it's still out there and people still see it. So it's like I said earlier, it's not always about the engagement, but the message, and also just respecting the way the influencer wants to share it. So to come back to your pitch, what makes an influencer want to work with a brand? I think it's when the brand is kind of very forgiving on like, yeah, do what you know how to do, and respecting the creator's creativity, not just like paying and saying, do what I want you to do. And so I personally work with brands. Sometimes it can be also very interesting because they will pay more for you to say the right thing. But at the end of the day, for me personally, it's never been about taking the job and just being like a TV ad. It was more like, I actually want to talk about this, and this actually is something I will use and like and wear. And then it's very natural for me to share about it. And I think the viewers and the followers, or anyway, they will know if it's just, ad after ad after ad, and that will eventually not create such a loyal exchange. So yeah, that would
That's great
be
insight.
for the companies
Yeah,
approaching us.
that's great. So, I'd like to. So let's say you've got the audience, and whether it's yours or through creators. So the next question becomes, how do you actually turn that into revenue without messing it? So Jess, how did you approach that early on, and how do you balance authenticity with selling?
It's been something I navigated and learned as I went, because I did not do business school. I did not have any background in what I have today. I didn't study that. I learned being in it and learning as I went. And I think being authentic is just in my nature. It's just something that's very true to me. So I was. And the business skill to me was something I had to learn, like more of being calculated, more of analyzing what works, what doesn't work. That was not very much my nature. And so I learned to balance both because if you want to see a return on what you're doing, you do need to see what works and what doesn't. And you can't just be doing whatever you think is good. But converting from me, from my brand, what worked was myself talking about my product and being out there and having my store. I had a physical store for about like 4.5 years. That really was a beautiful way for me to meet my clients, to grow that. And that was not a decision. I didn't open my store thinking, oh, I will meet people. It was just kind of, it happened. And then I got to meet them and develop a
Consequence of that, yeah.
yeah, and I got to develop a very loyal relationship with them. And now they know, and I could hear what they needed. And it was very intimate. So afterwards, obviously, these people were kind of also online, and so I think that's how it grew. It grew, but I think I would ask Vicky the question and kind of benefit from her expertise if she could tell me exactly how to keep growing and acquire new customers outside of my community, because my community is also, it would be a full-time for me job, and as a mom and an entrepreneur, and also doing my content creation, it's a lot of hats to wear. So maybe I would benefit from a company that, or from an expert that knows exactly how do I acquire now new customers and grow outside of my existing customers. And with the algorithm changing so much and so fast, it's important to also use these experts sometimes and like know exactly what you need to do next, because they've been analyzing and they've been knowing, okay, so now this is the right thing you should be doing. And so I'm not an expert in that field. I've just been in the field and I kind of did what I thought was good, but no, like knowing when to ask for help or knowing when to get the help from the experts is also something I learned and something that's important. Yeah.
So that is a very good follow-up question for Vicky. Vicky, how do you acquire new clients?
Yeah, Vicky.
Apart from,
Yeah.
signing up for platforms like Haylist.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
something interesting that now with AI, there's so many options, and we have a Baal in-house. She's amazing. She's our in-house data scientist, and she's been working on models where we work with this amazing, innovative beauty brand that is trusting us to try new things, and we're trying to move. I know, like aesthetic for a brand is super important, like the look and feel and so on, but sometimes the content that perform the best is not the more elevated, is not the most beautiful, is not the most on brand. So we're running these
Mm.
pilots right now where we're looking at 5 creators that are driving sales with or with no promo code, but like creators that have been driving sales. And we're looking at all the small metrics and data behind their profile and try to find other creators that have lookalike habits, posting habits, or data points behind, and then trying to replicate those creators in other cities, in other markets, and so on. And it's very difficult because we're looking at Instagram, and some clients are very picky. They'll say, "Oh, I don't like," especially like governments, or they have like big rules, like our big corporation, they have so many criteria.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't like that picture of that mom, she was in a bathing suit 6 years ago with her kids at the beach, and I'm like, she's a mom, she cannot be in a bathing suit. It's not sex, it's not like sexual or anything. But when humans are coming in the loop for selecting creators, it can like be so biased by personal taste and so on, that we need to find the right balance of finding those creators that will bring value and that are aligned with their data, and find creators that are aligned with the brand on a brand standpoint. And something that we've developed in house, which is one of the things I'm the most proud of, is our search by AI. So right now you can search by prompt, and because the creators are connected to the platform, I can see people hiking. I was on the Zoom with a very elevated vitamin company for kids in the US, and the persona is someone who's looking up at Gwyneth, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna search in there to find the Gwyneth lookalike? And we're looking at homemade bone broth for collagen, and all those creators are like cooking their own made bone broth for collagen. So we can find like persona that have the same lifestyle
Mhm.
habits. It's not about how old is she, where does she live, is what are the trends for her in her very specific niche. So I think that those signals can help you grow your audience by searching not necessarily by the criteria that we typically look for, but
Like
who
the
are
views, the follows, yeah.
yeah, but who
Mhm.
are this community? Like Jessica's brand is so elevated and beautiful. Like you can think, where is this woman having dinner on a Saturday, and then go dig at the followers of that restaurant. As simple as that, and
Mm.
and find those persona, but and I like the idea of perennials. Like people are not anymore like a Gen Z or Y, or they're like just so curated with their lifestyle. So I think like thinking differently and finding um, audiences that are like yours can be done in creative way, as simple as looking at other brands that you love and that you think are part of that person's life, and then just try to reach out to those people.
So since we are kind of touched on the metrics, and I know a lot of them are running under the hood, so to speak, but
We,
from a business standpoint, like what metrics actually matter today, and how should smaller companies even think about their return on investment uh, when working with creators? Like, so as I understand, it's not about the views necessarily, the engagement. What kind of metrics are we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think conversion is a good one in terms of, yes, sales. If you're using links or promo codes or signups to a newsletter on your website and so on. But also, I mentioned the shares, which are great. The comments. We look now not only at the number of comments, but we have a sentiment analysis tool that will say of all the comments during the campaign. This is AI again, but with a purpose. Because there's a lot of thing with AI, and say like we've been running campaigns with Roots, and we can say that when people say cozy and chic, like everybody loves that. So it becomes part of the messaging at one extent, because it you can see what type of not solely the number of comments, but the qualitative part of it. What stands out from this engagement, and also in influencer marketing, the way we do it with smaller creator, the UGC that you're creating, if you're a brand and you have this limited budget to go with full on photo shoots and creating assets for the brand and creating videos and posts for your own social, I feel like it's a metric that is interesting, is the number of piece of content that are being created um, while activating influencers as well.
I have a fun question for both of you, actually.
Oui.
So, what matters more today? Building your own audience or borrowing someone else's?
I can, if Vicky wants to go, she can go ahead, but I think it depends. It depends on like what you want, really, because if you're a brand and you don't want to put yourself in as the face of the company or in front of the company, and that's totally normal. Some entrepreneurs don't want to be out there. They just want to run a business. Then obviously working with people that are comfortable in front of the camera is key. If you think though that you're going to be also part of the process and you want to put yourself out there, I think it's a plus for a lot of companies to be able to put themselves out there and say, I'm the creator, I founded this, because now people want to know who's behind it. Um, yeah, I think it really depends, but if you can put yourself in front of the company and be very kind of vulnerable and say, this is me, this is this is what I'm creating, and it's not millions of people in the back of the company. It's actually here's my small team, and we work hard to make this happen. I think people relate to that and they like that.
Yeah, I also think it's a mix of both. Uh, Now younger generation, they want to know who's behind the brand, and it's also if they're going to apply to work at your company or not if they don't know about you. And even investors or like the whole ecosystem wants to see who's behind the company, and it doesn't need to be yourself like posting every single day, but being present on the company's social once in a while. But there's always the thought of other people's audience talking to you as a third party. If I say, "Oh, I'm Vicky, I'm amazing, it's incredible, like come with me," and if Jessica's saying, "Oh, I've met Vicky, she's a fierce entrepreneur, like you should be supporting her," like there's more chances that the way Jessica talk about me first is gonna be better because people are always humbling about themselves, and as a third party endorsement it's more likely that people will trust her because she has nothing to gain if I say that my products are amazing. Of course, I hope
Mhm.
that you think your products are amazing and it's cute, but if
Yeah.
somebody else says so, it's different. But I think it's not a perfect answer, but I think it should be a mix of both. Like,
So
By
very
the
good
way, Vicky,
answers.
I'll
Yeah.
send you a swimsuit. They are amazing.
yay! I'm living in vacation soon. I'll create some
Okay,
content.
great.
I'll be the mom on the beach
I love it. Go
with no
for it.
kids.
Embrace that 100%. You should be enjoying your life on the beach in your bikini.
How
Yeah,
about my
no, it's
bikini?
all right, you're not forgotten. I'll send you a bikini.
Okay.
You want a two piece
Okay.
or one piece? Yeah.
Okay.
But to
I want
come
to.
back,
Yeah, sure.
I just want to ask Vicky a
Sure.
question to come back to the
Yeah.
comments because that's something as a brand, I saw the company as just like, well, you know, brands never expect as many comments as like an influencer posting something personal and then expecting comments. And it
Yeah.
was kind of something that influencers and girls around me, and I started doing this influencing more as a side hobby, and it still is. I'm not like 100%. I don't live from that solely. Some people really see it as a career. And for them, it's very important. And like they put a lot of energy into this. And I've listened and I've heard these conversations about, oh, okay, how many views, how many likes, and how many comments, and how many. And then there's a lot of like these communities that get together and help each other comment things. And even I, a couple of years ago, was part of a group like that. And I unfortunately was not able to play the game as much as they did, which for them was a business.
Mm.
So I'm not disrespecting that. It's very legit. But for me, it was too much to give. Um, I was always engaging in things I was actually interested in and
Yeah.
expected the return to be as genuine. So I didn't want a comment to be just to boost the stats. I actually needed someone that wanted to comment. But it's how do we as creators, and I'm putting myself in there, see these comments if you see that they're, only kind of being boosted by their own inner community for a company when they see that, how do you see that versus an actual comment that comes from an actual stranger that's interested in that could potentially buy something
Yeah,
or, you
that's
know,
interesting because we had those conversations with clients in the past where we know that like creators they support each other, so they will like create engagement on other people's posts. But I always
yeah.
say it's not a waste because this is creating more noise and this is like pushing the algorithm. But I feel like
Hmm.
something brands and creators don't necessarily do is take time to reply to the comments, but not solely with an emoji but
Hmm.
actually comment. And I know that when I take time personally to do it on LinkedIn, I see that people care more and they're more engaged and they're more happy for the next chapter and they're sliding in my DM with a project because they like and so that's something super it takes time. That's something I do in my bed at night. But like to actually engage with your community, yourself or the
Hmm.
brand and with no, I know it's not easy when it's at scale, but you can feel what it's like, just a cut and paste, like
Mhm.
reply or response. Um, but I think it's not a problem. It's just creating more action, but it cannot be based solely on creators supporting each other.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I want to.
It's interesting and it's important to know because, you know, these big platforms have given the options to people now that they know that it's such a big pressure for content creators to get those numbers. And like I said, not necessarily means that you get the big numbers that they will convert. So it's important not to be crushed by the bigger wins because they get all
hmm,
that, because sometimes it is kind of behind the scene, all kind of orchestrated
it is.
and for example, I myself don't spend that much time because I don't have it commenting everyone in every post that I have, and so I can't expect people to have the amount of time either to come back at me, so I'm perfectly okay with that. But sometimes they'll write in a private message about my post, and then I will be very intimate with them and they know that they can. So I get a lot of DMs, but I don't necessarily get the comments because they don't want to have this conversation out there. And anyways, now Instagram has given the options to either hide your stats and things like that. And so Instagram is changing, and at the end of the day it won't be about the big show, but about what are you selling, what is the product, is the product quality, and is it genuine, is the relationship genuine with the buyer. And yeah, no, it's always like I literally am on both sides, like on the company
Yeah.
dealing with the influencers and on the influencing side dealing with the companies. And so and grew in both slowly. So yeah, that's what I want to add.
Um, yeah, I want to shift gears a bit because things are changing fast as we're talking about in social, and something that used to work that just doesn't work anymore. So Jess, a couple questions for you, and then I'll follow up with a couple questions for Vicky. But Jess, have you have you had content that completely failed but taught you something important? And also, how do you keep like your content like fresh over time? Especially when it comes to, let's say you're a company and you have like one single product or a limited lineup of products. How do you keep it interesting?
So So I will talk about my personal first and the company afterwards. I personally been on a break from maternity leave, so I was not as invested, and it's perfectly okay to take a break from all of that because, like I said, it is a full-time job. It's hard and it's consistency. So I kind of took the back seat for a bit, but knowing from previous more invested me. I think keeping it fresh is just keeping it authentic with whatever you're doing and kind of like posting as you go with like events that are coming up in your agenda. And like Vicky said, kind of planning ahead with your real life events. So that's something. And I personally am a very big perfectionist. So I feel like sometimes I would have a vacation plan and then was like, oh yeah, I'll create a bunch of content, and then got overwhelmed with all of the content I created and just posted one photo. And I had like every day to post, and I just got so overwhelmed with like wanting to share that I didn't share anything. So um for me, keeping it fresh was hard. It was actually hard to keep the post coming and keep, the active. But I'm learning to do it on a more regular basis now and kind of coming back to it. But things go fast now, so you need to be more produce more. I'm more of a like, I like to produce, but I can't just put it out there. It needs to be like in depth. Yeah. And for the company, it's pretty much the same thing. Like the gallery needs to be nice. I like it when it's elevated, and that's my signature. So for another company, it could be just having something like more personal, and the facade or the face of the gallery is not important, but they will speak to the camera and it will be super engaging. And that's actually something that works really, really well. So something I know for a fact that I don't do enough is if you speak to the camera and you're very much engaging face to face with your audience, it's something that's very, very good and very good for growing. Yeah. I forgot the question actually. What was the initial
You've
question?
answered it. You've
Did I?
answered it. It was about more like if you posted something that kind of failed,
Oh yeah.
content, and what did it teach you? Like
Yeah,
what
of
was the
course I
lesson?
did. Of course I did. And a bit back to what Vicky said, it didn't necessarily fail, but it's sometimes things I would put a lot of time and invested a lot of like effort in and kind of like didn't do anything. And you are a little bit sad because you've put a lot of time and effort into creating something nice and writing a nice message and no one reads it. And you're like, okay. But that's part of it. And it might be one person that reads and interacts, or one person that got that message through and it changed their day. And if that was your intention to share, you can't expect people to be there and like just do it for yourself. You wanted to put it out there, and that's what matters at the end of the day. That's how I see it now. Yeah.
Okay,
So
Vicky,
yeah,
I have
it's okay
a
to fail.
couple. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's okay to fail.
it's
Just
okay to
every day.
fail. Really.
No. Vicky, what are you seeing right now in terms of what's working in Canada? And since you kind of started working very closely with AI, how has AI content changed the game, like when it comes to authenticity?
Actually, I've been following virtual influencer for like 10 years, starting with Lil Miquela that was invited to Coachella, and then they were doing collabs with other avatars, and every single year I would do like thought leadership conference, like, oh, this is coming our way, like
Mhm.
avatars and AI influencer, and it never really happened. All of that to say that now a lot of solutions are offering AI influencer content. And some people would say, oh, you can tell it's AI, but we all know that in a minute we won't be able to tell it's AI anymore. So I feel like authenticity, real people. You're working with a beauty brand, you have brown skin, you want to know how the product is actually doing on a skin. So I feel like there will be a trend of people looking for real content, and there be a mention of like some way to tell officially that AI was yours or not. I think it's gonna be important, and people will it will be available, but people will always search for peer-to-peer recommendation, not made up recommendations. And we know that if it's AI avatar or a AI influencer, it's feed by the brand. It's not a third party. it's 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 not the same trust that you can have there. So there's a huge opportunity with AI to empower creators to help with doing their content, to maybe do their edit their videos and so on. There's tons of tools out there that can help creator with their content. But as of like pure AI influencer, I'm not sure this is gonna pick up anytime soon. I might be wrong, but I don't think this is something we'll see in Canada anytime soon. Just like we've been seeing in Asia for ages, all those videos where you can buy the chair, you can just click during the video, like live shopping, uh, is huge, but it's still something that did not come to Canada yet, so we're always a little behind. But everything like beauty and skincare is still super dominant. Food and beverage, people are craving also for local brands. That's when we see the founder is Canadian or is local. It's always good. And there's also all the something that we see trending is all like the less sexy services, like financial services, insurance. They're growing fast into more of an education play on social with the creators. This is something that we did not see in the past that is starting to happen right now. And if you're looking for, again, a time of your life where you're looking for a mortgage or like buying your first car or whatever that is, this type of content can resonate with the audience, even if it's more a service than a product.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, like kind of like beyond the tactics, and I also want to respect your time, because at the end of the day, like this isn't just about content; it's about like building something that lasts. So talking about the long game. Jess, you've built a community almost like around you and around your business. So if you had to give like one piece of advice to a small business trying to grow today, like what would it be?
Have a strong message and know your message and not get influenced by the outside noise. Like stick to your goal. And that's something I can say by personal failure where I got very influenced by the outside noise and kind of adapted my product and kind of changed to I wanted to serve the public and get, kind of please the public or the buyer. But at the end of the day, I was not true to myself and to what I really wanted to put out there. So I had to retract, readjust, and come back with the actual message that I had initially without any, uh, you know, distraction. And it's hard because we all live in a world of influence where we're super influenced by everything. So it's totally normal. I'm not beating myself up for having, had that little, um, you know, kind of readjusting. But definitely, if I started over today, I would say write a very clear goal of what you want your company to achieve and write down those goals like short, medium, long term and stick to them and be consistent. Yeah. Something I didn't do by the way in the when I started at all. I'm super ADD and like I had many learning curves along the way, but I made it because some years were very hard and I had like COVID in the middle and no one wanted to buy a swimsuit and during COVID. And so I really went like this with the company and so many times that I want to give up and I didn't and I kept going and just recently reopened the company and said, let's go for another 5 year and we'll see where we are. And it's okay. A company evolves with you, but it's always going back to your core message and, not being scared to readjust, not be too rigid, but just, keep going at it because good things take time and that's true. And good foundations are very important. So that will be my kind of learning after almost 10 years. Yeah.
And Vicky, like where do you see the creator economy going over the next few years?
It's not a trend at all. It's a distribution channel. It's not going anywhere. For the first time ever last summer, the spend in influencer marketing surpassed the traditional media
Mhm.
spend. Uh, so it's gonna evolve. I think that everything related to trust, we mentioned it so many times today, but trust is a new currency, and brands needs to be aware of how to build trust, how to maintain trust. If there's a lack of trust and something happened, to address it and be super comfortable about talking about the incident or whatever whatnot happened. And also, one of projects are good for testing, but not for scaling. As Jessica mentioned, she got sometimes trying a lot of things and so on at the same time and losing a bit of the essence that she wanted to bring to her company. But I feel if you're super clear and you have clear intention about saying it's going to be 90% us with our core values and brand, and we're going to leave a little space to test some things once in a while and show that we're culture relevant also.
Yeah.
You don't need to do the ice bucket challenge or whatever that is because everybody's jumping on the
Yeah.
wagon. But you need to show that you're following also, but pick the things that are relevant to your brand and to yourself,
Hmm.
that makes sense with your audience, even whether it's funny or it's something more vintage or nostalgic era. You can do it, but with your own taste. And something that I see, and sometimes we're the worst at doing it, is jumping on a trend a week after. Just don't. Just wait for the next one. I feel like sometimes brands, they want to do that thing that every single other brands have been doing for the last days. But if it's taking you too much time, just let go and wait for the next one. Yeah. So, and also, I liked when Jessica said, like, people are sliding in my DM, like relationship building, whether it's like in the comments, in the DM, when you're doing a pop-up and you're interacting with people in real life, when I'm giving
Yeah.
conferences and people come see me after and we talk. And like, these are ignition. People are craving real life connections. So I think that they're social, but in real life events will bring a layer of depth to those social relationship, and these people that will meet you in person, that will hear you in real life, will become ambassador of your brand. So we should not minimize how in real life events are still important and coming back. I see it with all the beauty brands, like, and beautiful aesthetic people, and then it lives on the internet and people like recapsule it and share it on social, but human connection in real life events is something that is important, I think, for the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. Also for
Thank you.
influencers dealing with companies, always be very grateful, I think, and very polite, because companies, it's not like a game. It's also an investment that they do, and I think both ways, the companies need to be nice, but also the creators need to be nice and create their content, in a nice way and be respectful of what they get back. And that builds a very good reputation in the long run. And the community is very small, and people know if we should not be working with some because they haven't been respectful. So always be very grateful and humble. And I think that goes a long way. Yeah.
That's a great advice, actually. Probably a lot of people are even thinking that they're so invincible behind, like their phones and everything. But it's true,
Hmm.
though, the word spreads. And when it comes to a specific business, a lot of times these are much smaller communities than just the global internet. I had a question for both of you, but you've kind of like addressed it now. So I'm going to switch it with another one that I just thought of. Um, is it realistic today, for a business to grow purely organically, or is that era is over?
Who's gonna answer first?
Either one of you. Either
I
one of
I
You
you.
would
can go.
love okay. I would love to think that organic growth is the only way and the most truthful way. But that being said, Instagram is also a huge marketing machine, and it is working now with, meta ads and all that. And I think knowing the balance between, letting your community grow organically, but also putting the right marketing out there, and that's not paying for faking your stats. Okay. That's paying for the right ads that will actually target the right people and grow your community the right way. I think that's a good investment, and investing in just boosting the stats is a waste of money and a big scam. And any influencer that starts should be careful with that, because companies in the long run they know that these things are not necessarily real, and they appear very good, but they're not going to convert. And at the end of the day, I think they really just want to convert, and that's that's what any company wants, to end up with a sale or a loyal customer. And yeah, investing in the ads though and growing from meta ads, I think is a very good strategy, which I haven't done in the past because I was very much in front of my camera and grew my community by talking, talking, talking. But now I'm not 25 anymore in my bikini and talking about my swimsuit. And it's just a different approach as a 35-year-old now. I just want to do it also talking about my products, of course, but not putting myself as much. So I also want to relate on growing the community with the tools that I have, with Instagram becoming a huge company. It's not just for selling or showing your life. It's a company, so it's to make profit in the end, I think, for everyone, and keeping it authentic, but also investing in meta ads or and that Vicky will correct me if I'm saying it wrong, and but I think this is something I have to put more time myself into, and that's my goal in the next couple months, to put more ads out there to target the right new audience, and then be also in front of the camera to get them to know who's really behind it, not just the brand. But yeah, that's, I think, both organic, yeah, and it's not going to happen alone though, because everyone is trying very hard and it's a very competitive world. So it's hard, it's going to be hard, and um it's also who has more money and can invest more and have more visibility. So, just grow at your own pace and with your own investment, and trust yourself because, some people have infinite amount of investment that they can put in marketing, and, so what do you think,
Vicky,
Vicky?
what do you
Yeah,
think? Is
I
organic
think
still a thing?
Yeah.
I think it again it's a mix of both, but starting with organic is great. But what we've
Mhm.
seen in the past year, and it was as interesting as we got interviewed by Business of Passion on that topic, is that the content that performs the best in advertising is now UGC. So with
Mhm.
what brands are doing, they're doing these collabs with influencers. They see what type of content performs the best, and then they'll buy the creative and use it as an advertising that they can push to exactly the right audience, the right target, and so on. So talking about a mix of both, it's
Mhm.
amplifying what works well in organic to get the bigger bang for your buck.
And maybe some people don't know what UGC is, but UGC is
Oh
like
yeah,
you
User,
pay a
yeah.
content creator that's not necessarily using her platform. So let's say I had almost no followers, but I create really good content. The brands can approach me. I create the content and I send it to the company. I'm paid, but I'm not promoting it myself. I'm creating the content very Instagram-like, very
yeah.
personal approach, but the company's using it and promoting it with their own marketing fuel.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
stands
it's
for
a very
user.
interesting
Yeah, it stands for
way for
UGC,
creatives.
user generated content.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
thank you
Thank you for
for getting
explaining that.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to quickly look it up, like on the side very quickly. Usually, I was like, wait a second, sounds familiar, but yes. But
Hmm.
Jess's angle was not something that I thought immediately. Like that was actually interesting, kind of way to collaborate even with business. All right, we've covered a lot. Um, I would open it up to Q&A, where even though we're running kind of late, but there's only one question who I don't know who is equipped to answer it better. Maybe both of you, because I'm personally not on Instagram. I don't know, but the question was from Vince. The question was: they say the algorithm isn't looking at hashtags anymore. What about mentions? This is in
You have a
relation to
certain limit.
Instagram.
So these things
Mhm.
change a lot. I think Vicky would know these things. Maybe keeping up to date with Instagram's new release on new. I don't do it personally, but I know it's very important. If you want to follow all of the rules of things that work, there's like different algorithms. But now there is a limit. I think you can post and tag about like five. So it's not about like a paragraph of hashtags anymore. And also having more of a niche Instagram works better, is what I think works better, is because the flood of people tagging those obvious like hashtag love is so big that you might just get lost in that flood. But I would be interested in knowing if they actually do change something in the stats. Like, would they actually change anything? I myself am very curious.
Yeah,
Vicky.
it always changed, but like mentions, I don't think it really helps boosting, but it can help you get noticed by the people that you're mentioning. And of course, if you're mentioning Nike, they might not like engage,
No.
but
Yeah.
being mindful of who you engage with, and then having their engage, like building relationship with these other brands or mentioning the people you were with will just um having chances of them reposting what you just created, but I don't think it's helping like the visibility on a like on at scale like hashtag used to do back in the days. Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's always changing. So this is information from last week. It might not be relevant
Yeah,
today.
exactly.
Still fresh.
It's a
That's great.
constant evolution. It's just, and there's more and more people subscribing. So it just keeps getting bigger. So it's also normal that it's adapting. And the trend now for creators is not about what it was, in 2025. It's completely different. It's a whole new thing. So yeah, it goes very fast, but I think keeping it true to you also is very important because things roll. Like it will come back, but yeah, the hashtags are not popular at the moment. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
still use them just in case. Um, there are no more questions that are coming through the chat, but I had one quick question for both of you. Since CanSpace is primarily like a Canadian company and everybody is watching and who will watch, 99.5% are going to be Canadian. Should Canadian business think differently about social media, like compared to like a global company, or the tactics and the techniques are about the same?
I would say
Either,
that,
yeah.
yeah, I think there's no huge difference. Is from what I've been observing over the past 20 years now. I have a like really good beauty product company as clients. Is that actually we're always a little behind in terms of platforms or use or trends or but I don't see any huge differences between us and other countries
Markets, yeah.
markets. Yeah, I don't.
Interesting.
What do
Jess,
you
yeah.
No, I don't think we're that well. We might be a little behind sometimes, but I think we're pretty good at keeping it up to date. I don't see why we would do it differently here. I think we're very capable. Yeah.
Okay, well, this was incredibly valuable. I really appreciate both of you for taking this time to share such practical, like honest insights. And for everyone here, hopefully you're walking away with at least one idea you can actually apply right away, or like push yourself to actually take the step. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.